Welcome to Have You Read It, the channel where we bring books to life, one summary at a time. Today we're diving into Saad Mohseni's Radio Free Afghanistan, a 20-year odyssey for an independent voice in Kabul. This book isn't just a memoir, it's a thrilling, often heartbreaking account of building and running a media empire in a nation constantly at war. It's a story of resilience, adaptation, and the unwavering belief in the power of free media, even in the face of extreme adversity. The book opens in 2022, just months after the Taliban's return to power. Mohseni's media company, Moby, faces a raid by a Taliban official angered by a Tolo news story. This incident sets the stage for the book's central theme, the constant tightrope walk between maintaining journalistic integrity and surviving under oppressive regimes. We see how Moby had to negotiate, adapt, and sometimes rebel against the Taliban's restrictions on media, including the banning of music and mixed-gender programs, the imposition of strict dress codes, and the arbitrary detention of staff, like Moby's head of legal, Abdul Nafai Khalik. The story highlights the courage of Kpolwak Sapai, Moby's head of news, who ran the story that triggered the raid, and his commitment to keeping the screens from going dark. Mohseni then takes us back to 2002 to Dubai, where he and his brother Zaid scrambled to get seats on an Ariana Airlines flight to Kabul after a 24-year absence. This scene captures the yearning of exiled Afghans to return home after the U.S. invasion. It underscores the sense of hope and possibility that permeated the early days of the post-Taliban era. Their return to Kabul is bittersweet. They witness a city scarred by war, but also one brimming with returning exiles eager to rebuild. They grapple with the challenges of starting a business in a chaotic environment, initially exploring ventures like almond exporting and textile production, before landing on the idea of a radio station. The story of building Arman FM, Hope, in Dari unfolds with vivid detail. We see the Mohseni brothers, along with their younger brother Jahid and Australian radio consultant Timmy Byrne, transforming a rented house into a makeshift studio, soundproofing walls with egg cartons, and hiring a staff with little to no radio experience. Their focus from the outset is on giving voice to ordinary Afghans, in both Pashto and Dari, with men and women on air together, a revolutionary concept in Afghanistan. Jan Aga, initially hired as a janitor, emerges as a beloved figure, fiercely protective of the company and embodying the resilience of ordinary Afghans. Arman FM's launch is an instant success. The station's blend of music and casual conversations, particularly the inclusion of women DJs, resonates deeply with listeners. The Kite Flying Festival, meant to be a small celebration, turns into a massive gathering, showcasing the public's hunger for connection and normalcy. The morning show, Cleaning Up the City, hosted by Seema Safa, Masood Sanjar, and Mohseni's cousin Humayun Danishar, further cements Arman FM's place in Afghan society. The show becomes a platform for citizens to voice their concerns about everything from traffic and trash collection to corruption and human rights abuses. We witness the show's impact through the story of the Pagman rapes, where the host's relentless pursuit of justice leads to the arrest and trial of the perpetrators. The narrative shifts back to 2022, with Mohseni traveling through Europe, advocating for continued engagement with Afghanistan. He encounters resistance from Western officials reluctant to legitimize the Taliban. He argues that disengagement hurts ordinary Afghans, particularly women and girls, and emphasizes the need for pragmatic solutions, like Moby's educational programming, to mitigate the humanitarian crisis. The book then recounts the launch of Tolo TV in 2004, just before Afghanistan's first democratic elections. Faced with limited resources and infrastructure challenges, the Mohseni brothers and their team scramble to get the station on air. They hire journalists with little television experience, but a deep understanding of Afghanistan, and prioritize on-the-ground reporting, capturing the excitement and hope surrounding the election. We learn about Mohseni's sister Wajma's journey to Kabul and her role at Moby. She becomes a crucial voice in the boardroom, advocating for women's representation and spearheading the company's public service announcements and branding work. The chapter also touches on the challenges and contradictions faced by women in post-Taliban Afghanistan and how their dreams and frustrations were often overlooked. The book continues with the story of Tolo TV's expansion. We see Naeem Sarwari, Moby's head of production, initially skeptical about their ambitions, but ultimately instrumental in bringing their vision to life. The chapter emphasizes the importance of entertainment programming, particularly the Indian soap opera The Mother-in-Law Was Once a Daughter-in-Law Too, in capturing a wide audience and providing a much-needed escape from the realities of war. We also see the development of original Afghan programming, including the satirical show Alarm Bell and the historical talk show Tea House. Mohseni shares his early interactions with Hamid Karzai, from the initial meetings in the ARG in 2002 to later disagreements over Moby's coverage of the Taliban. He paints a nuanced portrait of Karzai, a leader torn between his vision for a modern Afghanistan and the pressures of traditionalism and political expediency. The pervasiveness of corruption in post-Taliban Afghanistan is a recurring theme. We see how it infiltrates every level of society, from the squatter in the Mohseni family home to government officials and even international aid workers. The book highlights Moby's efforts to expose corruption through investigative reporting and the challenges they faced in doing so. This chapter also introduces Sarah, Mohseni's girlfriend, and her experiences running a textile factory in Kabul. The narrative returns to 2023, showing how Tolo's newsroom has adapted to life under the Taliban's second regime. We witness the resilience and resourcefulness of Afghan journalists, particularly women, as they navigate new restrictions and try to maintain some semblance of journalistic integrity. The book then introduces Tom Freston, the co-founder of MTV, who becomes a close friend and Moby board member. We learn about Tom's own experiences in 1970s Kabul and his unwavering support for Moby, particularly Afghan Star. His partnership with Moby helps propel the company's expansion into new markets. The challenges of covering the Taliban, both during the insurgency and after their return to power, are a major focus. We see how Moby's commitment to giving voice to all Afghans, including Taliban fighters, angered both the Karzai and Ghani administrations and ultimately led to the Taliban declaring Moby a military target. The story of Zaid's detention by Afghan intelligence for airing an interview with a Taliban leader highlights the pressures faced by independent media. Mohseni shares his complicated relationship with Ashraf Ghani, from their early friendship to later disagreements, and Ghani's eventual presidency. He describes Ghani's temper, his disconnect from ordinary Afghans, and his ultimately disastrous leadership in the lead-up to the Taliban takeover. The founding of the Afghan Premier League, Afghanistan's first private football league, is a surprisingly uplifting story. We see how Shafiq Gawari, a former football player and Moby's managing director, brings together players from all ethnic backgrounds, overcoming security challenges and cultural barriers to create a sense of national unity through sport. The 2016 Taliban attack on a Moby minibus, killing 7 employees, is a turning point in the book. The chapter explores the emotional toll of the attack on the Moby staff and Mohseni's struggle to balance grief with the responsibility of keeping the company going. It also recounts the aftermath of the Kunduz University hostel rape story, which led the Taliban to declare Moby a military target. The book concludes with reflections on Mohseni's mother, Safiya, and her experiences returning to Kabul after the Taliban takeover, his daughter's wedding, the challenges of filming Afghan Star in Herat in the face of protests by a hardline cleric, the psychological impact of trauma on Afghans, the work of Afghan filmmaker Roya Sadat and her efforts to tell authentic Afghan stories, and finally, the chaotic fall of Kabul in August 2021 and the subsequent evacuation of Moby staff. The book's main takeaway is the essential role of independent media in a society, especially during times of conflict and upheaval. It highlights the courage and resilience of Afghan journalists, the power of storytelling to connect people, and the importance of giving voice to the voiceless. It also underscores the devastating consequences of corruption, political ineptitude, and foreign intervention. Here are a few key heuristics from Mohseni's story. Media as a mirror. Independent media should reflect the complexities of a society, not just the official narrative. Youth wins. Young people are hungry for change and connection, and media can be a powerful force for both. Engagement over isolation. Even with regimes we disagree with, engagement is crucial to understanding and addressing complex problems. The power of entertainment. Even in times of crisis, entertainment provides a necessary escape and a sense of normalcy. Never lose hope. Even in the face of seemingly insurmountable challenges, the human spirit and the desire for a better future can prevail. Thanks for watching. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button so you never miss our next book dive.